how can we improve our public speaking skills using artificial intelligence? The answer is Udly. And I'm here today with the co-founder of Udly, Varun Puri. Varun came from India to the United States and has worked at some of the top tech companies in the United States, including Alphabet, where he reported to one of the co-founders of Google on special projects. In order to reach our full potential, we need to master the art of public speaking. And with Udly's AI technology, we can do this for free right now from the comfort of our homes. Udly's employees have work experience at Apple, Facebook, Google, Intuit, and other top technology companies. Udly's investors include Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen's Institute for Artificial Intelligence and Madrona Venture Group, which invested in Amazon, Snowflake, and many other top technology companies pre-IPO. Varun inspires me so much, and I'm sure he'll inspire you as well. So Varun, I want to thank you very much for being part of this interview. You and I are both very passionate about leveraging technology and education to make the world a better place. I've opened a school in Rwanda. I plan to do a lot more. Now, I was reading about you and your work experience at Google X, and explain how that worked. You created this laser-based broadband system in Africa to provide affordable broadband. How does that work? And what are your general thoughts on how tech and education can solve all problems in the world?
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. I believe that internet is an equalizer. It can be an incredibly strong tool to upskill people, to give them access to opportunities, to new kinds of skills, jobs, thinking, communities, and so forth. So at Google X, we were trying to figure out how can we bring access to the internet to large swaths of people. Our idea was in space, the way the International Space Station talks to satellites, for instance, is using these invisible lasers. Now, there are parts of the world where it's very difficult to run fiber cables, which is a gold standard in getting internet. These are typically cables that are dug through roads, come into your house, etc. But in war-torn regions, or in mountainous regions, or in areas with heavy traffic, or where the economics don't always make sense, there is no fiber internet. So our dream was, what if we take that space technology, bring it to the ground, put it in boxes, and use invisible lasers to bring internet to unconnected parts of the world? And I think even with that, bringing internet is not sufficient, right? For this to be truly successful and democratized, it's got to be ubiquitous. That is, it's got to be available everywhere. It's got to be abundant, right? Like capped internet where you can send just one WhatsApp message is not adequate. You've got to be able to stream lessons like these. And it's got to be affordable so that everyone can access it. So the dream at Project Tara, which was the name of this project, it's still a project at Google X, was can we bring ubiquitous, affordable, abundant internet to underserved parts of the world? And that's what took me to sub-Saharan Africa, where I spent a fair bit of time.
I love it. I love it. Please give us a little bit more information about your company.
Udly is an AI-powered platform to help people practice and improve their public speaking without the pressure of an audience. My dream behind this is there are so many wicked smart people around the world, especially back home in India, who may not get access to the opportunities they deserve because they don't back themselves while speaking up. On a date, on a job interview, on a roundtable discussion, on stage. The best way to practice today is to talk out loud in front of a mirror, a stopwatch, a friend, to pace back and forth trying to memorize your slides. The dream with Yudli is, can we do something better? Can we give you a judgment-free space to watch your speech, to get better, and collaborate with friends and loved ones?
I love it. I love it. I love the product. Now, I want to ask you about the competitive environments. Now, why is it that Microsoft, Apple, and Google don't have this sort of technology embedded in their presentation software? And if you can touch upon the other competitors you see in the marketplace as well. Thank you.
Yeah, as I mentioned, a lot of the competitors today are more low-tech, right? Your stopwatch, your smartphone, and your mirror being the biggest alternatives. And we've all been in situations like those. When it comes to the big tech companies, nobody is quite focused on public speaking. And my hypothesis is that because nobody's quite incentivized to do that, right? There's no head of public speaking. There's nobody whose OKR or objective and key result is help people become better communicators. It's one of those implicit things that you're expected to know coming out of college. And for a lot of us who grew up in parts of the world, such as India, where speaking up or public speaking isn't part of your curriculum, you can suffer. That being said, there are technologies that are in a similar space. So for instance, both Google and Microsoft have assistants that can sit on your Zoom call, your Microsoft Teams call, your Google Hangout call, and give you analytics on how you're doing in terms of the overall meeting. But I haven't seen anything just yet that is focused on helping you become the best communicator you can be.
That's great. Thank you for that. If you can please talk a little bit about who your target customer is, and also how do you come up with the criteria that you judge people based on using your AI platform so they can take their public speaking to the next level?
Yeah, that's a pretty detailed question, so I'm going to try and give you a detailed answer. The first is, in the long term, hopefully our target market is anyone who's got any conversation of substance, come and practice. What that means today is basically a version of me, right? Someone who's likely a non-native English speaker, an immigrant, someone who might be conscious of their accent, who might be a little introverted, doesn't enjoy speaking up, goes to a place like Toastmasters, uses a tool like Grammarly. Udly is built for them, and then hopefully we'll scale from there. To your second question, which is a really challenging one. Speech is authentic, and it's spontaneous, and it's nuanced, and it's dependent on who you are. Shame on us if we build a platform that takes the kid in India and tells them, hey, now you should start talking like Steve Jobs. That to me is not success. That is me forcing someone to not be authentic. Our dream at Udly is to build a system that learns from your speaking styles to help you be the best speaker that you can be. What I mean by this is Udly gives you feedback on your speech. It benchmarks you relative to yourself. And over time, we'll ask you, who are the people you admire? Okay, great. You don't want to talk like Steve Jobs. You don't want to talk like Obama. You admire Gandhi. Let's show you their speaking styles. So this is something we're very, very careful of. We also acknowledge that there is no right answer in speaking, right? The filler words can be helpful. The pacing can be helpful. The goal with this tool is to be insightful and not prescriptive. So to tell you, here are interesting insights about your speech that you may not have otherwise known. We won't say, here's good and here's bad. And even if there are shades over there, we will acknowledge that this is typical conversational range and here's how you sounded. Now it's up to you to decide if you want to go fast or slow or change your eye contact and your body language at certain times. The last part of this is, look, we want to collaborate with experts and ensure we're doing this right. So we're working with some of the world's leading academics from the top schools. We've got 5 Toastmasters world champions of public speaking and hundreds of speech coaches, exec coaches, TED coaches, TED speakers, all helping us define how to make this tool the most useful possible.
So can using your product help you to speak English much better?
Totally, right? It depends on how you want to use the product. So currently, if you record a speech, you will automatically get a transcript real time. Now, the speech-to-text system that we use is based on American accents right now. But at least the system will help you understand, hey, the system didn't understand what you were saying on this word. So for instance, oftentimes when I say TED, it transcribes it as dead, and I'm aware of where my audience might get a little confused. We are using the speech-to-text system to get better and better with more accents and to help people understand where they can use better words or be more concise moving forward.
Longer term, are you planning on adding additional languages to the platform?
Absolutely. In fact, I think that's more short-term than long-term. We've heard requests for French and Italian and Hindi, which is really close to my heart, right? If we want to help people communicate with confidence and we want this to be an equalizer, it's got to be available in other languages as well. But one thing to note is, when you are communicating with an audience, over 90% of your communication is nonverbal. So the language may not actually matter as much. It's, can you look someone in the eye? Do you have a twinkle in your eye? Are you smiling? What's your body language like? So much of that is way more disarming than the other stuff, which is your vocal variety. And then last comes the language and the word choice.
That's great. Now, does Udly help with your body language as well?
So not today, but we have elements of that coming soon. The dream behind Udly is get feedback across your visual, vocal, and verbal speaking. Your visual speaking is your body language, your gesture, posture, eye contact. Do I keep doing this over and over again? Do I have a tic? Your vocal variety, your pitch, your up talk. A lot of people end sentences with a higher pitch, with vocal fry, whether they're varying their pacing and so forth. And then the last element is the verbal, your word choice. What were your top keywords? Were you on brand? If I'm giving a pitch, I probably want public speaking to be my two most common keywords, and then the filler words and the rest of it.
So who are the kinds of people using your product today?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've got folks across the spectrum. So on one end, you've got speaking coaches, college career services professionals, business school communications professors. On the other end, you've got folks who are preparing for job interviews, upcoming speeches, etc. And then we have a large contingent of corporate professionals who know they need to deliver a compelling presentation to get their message across. So we've got employees from Bain, BCG, Apple, Google, and dozens of other top companies practicing their upcoming presentations on Udly.
Now, when it comes to job interviews, do you have any customers that have had success stories using your product and they were able to ace their interview?
Totally. In fact, we've heard of dozens and dozens of people who've gotten jobs at Cisco, Google, Intuit, McKinsey, all practicing on Udly. When you go into the tool, you'll see this, but you can go in. Udly recommends a series of questions for you to practice depending on the interview type. So if you're applying to BCG or a consulting firm, we can give you cases. If you're practicing behavioral interviews, we have a question bank for you to choose from. Things like, tell me about yourself. What is your greatest strength? And then we give you benchmarks for how other experts may or may not have answered that question. So Udly has a large question bank, the ability for you to practice on your own and get AI feedback as many times as you want. And then when you're done, you can share your speech with people who are currently in the industry and then get their feedback. So if I'm applying for a product management role at Google, I might practice my top 3 product questions, one of which will be, what is your favorite product and how might you improve it? I'll practice it a few times and then I will send it to a few people I know. Udly can connect me with some of them and get their feedback asynchronously. So no more mock interviews, setting up time, uploading, downloading, watching it and saying at 2 minutes, 37 seconds, you bobbled your head weirdly. Udly makes the entire process of preparing and collaborating with peers really simple.
That's great. Do you have any wizard-driven technology or plans to have this so that in the future, I would enter in what type of job I'm interviewing for, and you could provide me with the questions that are most likely going to be asked based on the industry?
Yep, totally. In fact, that already exists in the platform. So if you click on practice followed by interview prep, you can choose what industry and what company you're trying to work with, and you will get a question bank with the most recommended and practiced questions that we've sourced from members in our community.
That's great. Thank you for that. How do you motivate your employees? So let's talk about how many employees do you have? How do you recruit? How do you retain? And how do you motivate them in a startup when things can change pretty quickly?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm a first-time founder, and this has been really tough, especially in Seattle, where we're competing with Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, etc. My approach to this is to lead with the problem, right? Somebody's going to come join me, not for the money, not for the stock, but because they've suffered from this problem and they know people who struggle with it. If I can get them passionate about the problem, then I try to get them passionate enough about what I don't know. So my approach is very much, here's the idea and here's what I'm trying to do, and here are the 50 things I don't know how to do. Would you be willing to come help me out, take a bet on me, and help make this company a reality? And at least from what I've seen, when someone comes on realizing that they're going to fill in gaps that nobody else can do, they feel a lot more empowered. So we're still a small team, fewer than 10 people, but rapidly growing and obviously with big aspirations.
Excellent, excellent. Now, when I worked in the venture capital industry, we would always say the jockey is more important than the horse. And it's important to find a passionate founder that can get everybody excited about the underlying technology, even if it's something boring like cloud computing. And so Mark Benioff basically put cloud computing on the map. So Richard Branson makes all of his companies sound really, really exciting. You've got those qualities as well. And I want to ask you, were you born like this, or did you have mentors along the way that helped you become a better public speaker, or did you just use your product?
I'd like to say I used my product, but it didn't exist back then. I'm by no means a Mark Benioff or a Richard Branson. I I think for me, I had the opportunity to work with some senior people at Google early on in my career. And as soon as I started working with them, it was clear I was by far the most junior in the room. Definitely not even nearly one of the smartest 90% in the room. And I didn't have all of the answers. My assumption and understanding of how business and the world works is people just bet on other people they like, right? Can I look you in the eye and say, Chris, here's what I don't know. Do you have my back? And my approach to this, especially through the Alphabet experience, where I was dealing with some very famous people, but also struggling with how I fit into this broader ecosystem, was to be totally honest and vulnerable with people and get them to bet on me as opposed to betting on my project or my final deliverable. And at least I've seen when you approach things that way, people are a lot more willing to help.
Right. That's great. Excellent. Now, if you can please provide our viewers with some advice on how to raise venture capital money. You've raised over $1 million so far. How have you done it, and what recommendations do you have for people that are trying to raise money? Thank you.
Yeah, I think so. We've raised from two groups so far. Paul Allen, the founder of Microsoft, has an AI institute called the Allen AI Institute, and Madrona Venture Group, which is the leading VC firm in the Pacific Northwest, especially at the early stages, at the pre-seed or the seed stage. It doesn't matter what your idea is. The VC is betting on you. So the pitch deck can help, but I haven't seen that as being most instrumental. I think there are two things. First, getting them to believe in the problem, right? I never lead with, here's the market size and here's a total addressable market. My approach is, hey, you know someone who struggles with it, as does she, as do I, let's go solve the problem. And normally when I lead with that, I hear someone on the other saying, oh God, this has been my biggest insecurity. Oh, hey, Varun, I understand this problem deeply. And the moment I'm able to connect with them, they feel ownership of this problem, regardless of what direction we take it with, right? Is it a job interview technology, or is it a public speaking technology on day one? And then the second, if they believe in the problem space, is to believe that, I am, or my team is the right team to go and solve this. That's anyone's guess, right? People are subjective. I get rejected 9 times out of 10. But my approach with VCs has been, this problem is large enough, and I've struggled with it personally. Growing up in India, I had a lisp. I've worked on my public speaking over and over again. I did debate and mock trial. And when I was at Google X, I was a speech coach. I've lived and breathed this problem on both sides of the spectrum. Like, help me help others.
Cool. I love how humble you are as well. Great quality. So they say that page 2 of Google search rankings is the loneliest place in the world. What is your go-to-market strategy, and what is your plan to get a lot of subscribers quickly?
Yeah, it's a great question. First off, doing things like these, right? How do I find people who are impacting hundreds of thousands of people and just tie my product to what they are doing? So be it on courses such as Udemy, on YouTube, through interviews such as these. But at the end of the day, I think for people to get better at public speaking, it's got to be light and fun and playful. Public speaking shouldn't be this anxiety-inducing thing that people take medicines before. If I can make people think of it as fun, like a fun game, right? Like a Cards Against Humanity that people play, I think we can reach a lot of people. So the core to our go-to-market strategy is build a Wordle-like game. Get people to challenge each other. Let's see if they get hooked. And let's see if they can laugh at themselves and enjoy the speech process through this.
What are some examples of colleges or coaches or companies that you're partnering with?
Yep, so we've got employees from Google, McKinsey, Apple, etc. using our platform. Several college career services centers now recommend Udly as part of the student toolkit. So if you go to University of Washington, Colby, folks at Harvard, at Claremont are all using our tool. And then we've got dozens and dozens of speech coaches, all the way from Toastmasters world champions of public speaking. We have 5 world champions working with us, to TEDx coaches, TED talkers, and many others.
So let's talk about scalability. How scalable is your business model, and what is your IT infrastructure based on? Is it based on Amazon Web Services or another technology?
Yep, so everything we have is based on Google Cloud Platform, and then we're using a series of other technologies along the way. We've tried to build this in the most scalable way possible from day zero, and that's been a learning for me, right? Especially at the earliest days of your company, you've got to be most focused and obsessed with experimentation, right? I wake up every day saying, how can I throw 100 matches and see which one gets a little bit of a Kindle, and then do the same thing the next day? And having a flexible stack enables that the most, right? So if my core baseline infrastructure is scalable regardless of how we package it on top. I can go ahead and say, hey, you've got an upcoming best man speech. Great, use Udly, this great product to help you with your public speaking. Or if you've got a job interview, I can say the same thing.
That's great. Excellent. So let's talk now about intellectual property protection. What advice do you have for our viewers on how to protect your IP?
Our approach has been product first, IP second. So a lot of people on day one said, start by protecting your IP. My approach was, let me first build something that's worthy enough to be protected and not get too caught up in the paperwork. So we actually got our product in the hands of people as soon as possible. And then when we started seeing clusters of users gravitate towards certain features, we then went and filed a few patents. The way I think of this is, look, had Uber filed a few more patents ahead of time, could they have blocked Lyft? Maybe, but like if Lyft wanted to find a way out, they would have been in the market anyway. Uber was successful because of the product and the reach they had. How can we build some kind of similar scale and not worry about the paperwork as much?
That's great. What would you say is the most misunderstood aspect of your business model by customers and investors?
Yeah, this is a good one. We are AI for public speaking, and we know that the fear of public speaking affects 2 out of 3 people. For a lot of investors, though, the moment you think of public speaking, you think of, well, that doesn't really apply to me, right? That's what a TED Talk person does, or that's what Steve Jobs does, or that's what Chris Haroon does on stage. Most people give presentations. Most people have salary negotiations. So it's been challenging for me to help our investors understand that it's all one and the same. It's how you communicate to another person. And we are now, instead of AI for public speaking, AI for communication skills more broadly, where public speaking is just one part of that umbrella.
Do you have a part of your business plan focused on big corporations as well? Because I think this could really help salespeople in corporations to close more deals.
Absolutely. So while we have a large consumer arm, we're seeing huge interest, not just from sales teams, but also from speakers who are preparing for all hands meetings or their big Google I/O conference. So we're collaborating with learning and development managers, sales leaders, comms leads, product area leads to offer this as a benefit to all of their employees to improve their public speaking.
And how often you meet with your board? And aside from them providing capital, what other value do they add to your company?
I mean, for me, it's been extremely helpful. We have board meetings once a quarter right now, and that cadence will change as we get more and more investors. We discuss everything from the product status to the health of the business to upcoming hires to areas where we are struggling. This could be marketing. This could be figuring out our go-to-market strategy. One of the things that I like to do is I get my board members to get on the whiteboard with me with a pen and paper. I've realized it's very, very easy, especially for something like communication skills, where everybody has a perspective, for people to give me armchair advice. Now, when people ask me questions or give me advice, my response is, here's a marker, tell me how you would solve it. So anytime someone asks me a question, it's like, I don't know. That's why you're on my board. Like, give me an answer.
I love it. I love it. Now, what is a typical day in a life like in a startup like your company?
For us, we've been working very, very hard. To be totally honest, I try to wake up at 8. I spend the first 2 hours in the morning just obsessing over numbers and my dashboard. How many people have come into the platform? Why did they come to the platform? What was their experience like? What was their onboarding answer? Then I divide my day maybe 30% across customer discovery calls, which is, what is the underlying pain point that someone has? Are they scared of communication skills because they aren't a non-native English speaker? Or is it a more deep-rooted insecurity? I'll spend 30% doing team-related things, right? Helping unblock other people on the team. At the end of the day, my job is to be a product manager for everyone, ensuring they can do their job the best. And then the remaining, whatever, 30% or more is miscellaneous stuff that comes up. These could be investor calls. It could be, I've got to do my end-of-year taxes right now for the company. It could be paperwork, recruiting, sales, anything else.
Great, great. If you could go back in time before you started Udly, what advice would you have given yourself?
I think being more comfortable with the uncertainty. That is, if you believe in the problem space and you keep experimenting hard enough, you will find a cluster of answers to gravitate towards. On day one, I was too obsessed because of what I had read in the media, right? On Forbes, on TechCrunch. Every company has product market fit on day one and they know their customer, and someone quit their company, went to solve the problem, solved it and succeeded. That's not how startups work. It's going to take us many, many years to do that. We've just got to be comfortable constantly experimenting. So now one of the things we index on is we just have a hypothesis tracker. So every day I wake up and I say, here are 10 different hypotheses we are going to test through both qualitative and quantitative metrics. And how do we ensure we have the tools to constantly be experimenting and iterating?
That's great. Excellent. Now, Ben Horowitz from Andreessen Horowitz talks about how every startup has a bunch of WIFIO moments in the first couple of years. WIFIO stands for where something, it's over. You get it. How do you stay unemotional and turn a crisis into an opportunity?
That's a really tough one as well. And I don't know if I have the right answer. I'm a very emotional guy. I'm a very passionate guy, and I wear my emotions on my sleeve. And I think my team loves and hates that about me. My style is not, when there's a massive crisis, to shield the entire team from it. I will go and tell them, hey, here's what we are struggling with. I'm going to try my best to get us through it, but we are in this together. One of the things that we've done in terms of public speaking, turning any crisis into an opportunity, is people are speaking all the time, right? Be it with the unfortunate events that are going on in Ukraine and Russia right now, to President Biden's recent State of the Union, to celebrities speaking at Oscar speeches. When people speak, there is an opportunity to understand their implicit motivations, to give feedback, to try and amplify their message. So given the platform that we are building, we try to stay very attuned with events in the world and get our experts, such as Chris, to help critique speakers around the world on our platform.
I got to tell you, man, if I can learn how to speak like you by using your product, I'd pay for it. It's free right now, right?
It is free, yes.
Okay. Any plans to change that?
Not yet. Okay. And I say that because I want to believe that we are building something that is of value to people and is solving their problem. So hopefully you all use the tool. Success for me is, of course, you improve and you get better, but you also get obsessed with it, right? Where you call me and you say, Varun, I love these 3 things, but God, if only that one button worked, or if only that one thing worked. When I see enough people passionate enough about that, I will go in and start thinking about monetization.
Great, excellent. Now, a startup can be a 24/7 undertaking. How do you stay balanced?
I don't. I need to figure this one out. A lot of this is my being brash and being a first-time founder. Oftentimes, I have members of my board saying, Varun, you need to slow down. This is a marathon. You're sprinting a marathon. And in my excitement, I'm like, watch me. I'm going to sprint this marathon.
Love it.
If I'm going to sprain my ankle, let me do that. I'm young, naive, and indestructible. But if I'm dying along the way, then come in and intervene. So I haven't done a great job, but I'm definitely trying to. I cycle a fair bit, so I try to get 45 minutes, an hour on my bike every day.
That's great, that's great. Now, what are 3 pieces of advice that you would give our viewers that want to start a company?
I won't give 3, but I think the biggest one is starting a company is an emotional, lonely, exhausting process that can likely go on for years and years and years. So I read one statistic that said an average marriage in the US lasts for 8 years, but a company lasts for 9 years. You have got to be obsessed with the problem you're solving, right? I don't know what Yudli is going to be tomorrow. We're going to take twists and turns, and it may not even look like this. But I do believe it will always be a tool to help people improve their communication skills. And I believe if we do that well, we can help millions and millions of people. So I think my advice is be really sure of the problem space that you want to solve, such that if you're on your deathbed or you read your eulogy, you're like, that's the guy who spent his or her life trying to solve that particular problem.
What would you say are the biggest weaknesses with your business model?
Yep, it's a great question. At the core, we are trying to solve someone's hair on fire problem, right? I have a speech tomorrow. I'm extremely nervous. How do I nail it? I have an interview in 2 weeks. I need to do extremely well on that interview. The problem with this is these hair on fire moments are hair on fire moments because they happen not that frequently. You don't want your hair to be on fire all the time. Your clothes will be on fire and then you could hurt yourself. Anyhow, jokes aside, how do we ensure we are adding value to users' lives throughout the course of the year as opposed to through one-off sporadic moments when they might have a job interview or they might have a big presentation?
Excellent. Now, my final question is, How do you think about your product portfolio in the long run and gamification when it comes to your platform?
It's a great question. I think first and foremost, games have to be part of this no matter what. If we can make public speaking light and fun and addictive and playful, we've helped a lot of people get over what is likely their biggest anxiety. The long-term product vision is anytime you've got an upcoming conversation of substance, be this a date, a job interview, a roundtable discussion, a salary negotiation, a best man speech, come and practice at Yudli, and Yudli will give you AI-powered feedback and tell you things about your speech that you didn't otherwise know. And then when you're giving your speech live, Yudli will be by your side. If you're on a Zoom call, we should let you know, hey, Chris, you change your pitch when you talk to a man versus a woman. Or you're seeming more nervous in your calls with your manager versus someone else. And then even after the fact, Yudli should be there to help you course correct and say, listen, good job on this speech, but here's how you can do better next time. Our dream is to be your personal speech coach, be it in person while you're presenting, in the virtual world, or anytime you're ever preparing.
Can you give an example of gamification on your platform?
Yeah, for sure. We can check it out live. It's a great game to practice your impromptu speaking, maintaining your train of thought, and still having fun. Far too often, we have a speech memorized, and we're doing just fine. But then someone interrupts us with a question, a cough, a joke, and we lose our train of thought. This game is about maintaining your train of thought and incorporating distractions from the world into your speech. So I can choose a level. Let me call it level hard. So I'll get a new prompt every 8 seconds, and let me set my game time to be 1 minute. And I click on start playing. And let's say I didn't know what to do and I skipped the word and I completed my game. At the end of this, I get a quick score with how I did on hits, misses, and my final score, which is hits minus misses. The objective is just to be confident and to have fun. If you practice this every day, you'll see yourself thinking on your feet more quickly and being able to make quick correlations between objects.
Varun, thank you so much for coming to my house and being a part of this interview. You inspire me so much. Thank you so much. Now to check out Udly and take your public speaking skills to the next level, please go to yoodli.ai. That's YOODLI.ai. Thanks again.